Thanks for staying with us. It's time now to go to the press and see what we can lift off the press. And joining us to discuss these headlines today is Mr. Nick Agule, a public affairs analyst and an energy expert. Good morning and welcome to the show, Mr. Agule.
Good day, Mr. Nyamgul, and good morning to our viewers globally.
Okay, today we're starting with Daily Trust, and the leading headline is "Why I Won't Help Tinubu Government." That is Emir Sanusi. He says president lacks credible team, and presidency is mum about that. We know that Sanusi has always been an outspoken person, but it's a wonder that he's saying that he will not even say anything. He is keeping his mouth shut as far as this present administration is concerned.
Thank you very much. So, followers of events in Kano, we understand why Emir Sanusi will take this stance, because his rules are coming from the center, as he will believe it. The APC national chairman is one of those that he will believe are the cause of the problem for why there is a dispute on his emirship. And it's understandable that he would think that the national government at the center is not behind him. We also know about the federal judiciary that is being used against him and all of that. So it's understandable. But if we set that aside and we look at his comments to say that Mr. President does not have a credible team, they are not delivering, he will also be right, because we are getting into 2 years of this administration. That is 50% spent of their tenure spent. And we know that in the 4-year tenure in Nigeria, your first year is your reaction year. That is the year that you begin to make the policy decisions that are going to impact positively on Nigerians. And your second year is when you are implementing those policies. And Nigerians are beginning to see either the results, or they are looking at the implementation and hoping that results are going to come further down the pipeline. Because the third year is when they are jostling for office. I mean, for who will be a candidate or what party. The third year is simply politics. And of course, the fourth year is for electioneering campaigns, right? So if we appraise this government and we say, what have they delivered in the first year in terms of policy decisions that will impact positively on Nigerians, I am struggling to see anything, because their policy decisions so far have added to the poverty of Nigerians, whether it is fuel subsidy removal, whether it is electricity removal, whether it is exchange rate hike, whether it's a hike in interest rate, or even tax reform they're talking about now. Inflation is soaring. Nigerians are just being thrown under the bus. I can't see policy decisions that are unlocking value in agriculture, that are boosting power supply, that are dealing with our refineries, that are dealing with our steel plants, that are talking about how Nigerians can now use trains so that transportation costs will be cheaper. I'm not hearing anything in that kind of direction. So getting into this, the halftime for the government, we're not seeing the results. So for instance, specifically, what I meant is, if this government came into power a year and 19 months ago, and immediately took over our refineries and handed them over to private investors, today we will either be seeing the result or hoping for the result. If they drove away bandits, at least in some of the communities, and returned farmers to their farmlands, then bringing machines to them, today we'll be hoping for results. If they took over transmission and handed it over to private investors who will now be injecting money to expand the transmission network, and they did the same thing with the disco, so they will be hoping for results, for instance. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. We haven't seen anything like that. So Emir Sanusi can be understood if he says that, look, this government does not have the right team and is not delivering results.
Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit about security, but starting with yesterday's event. It was Armed Forces Remembrance Day. We were remembering our fallen heroes, and also even the ones that still are in the theaters of wars right now and doing whatever they're doing. The widows were complaining that they were struggling to survive. The widows of the fallen heroes, and so many other issues came up when that event was being celebrated. But I don't know what you see about the welfare of our armed forces as it is right now, and how that affects the security situation in the country.
First and foremost, I want to pay my respect to the men and women in uniform who run towards danger. For us as civilians, when we see danger, we're running away from the danger. But these men in uniform, they run towards the danger because they want to put off that danger so that we will remain safe. So I have to pay respects to them, both for those who have served and retired, those who are serving, and those who unfortunately we have lost. They have given their lives to keep us safe. And we must all be very thankful and grateful to them. And this is why it is very disheartening to hear, like you have said, that for those who have fallen in the defense of our country and our democracy and our lives, that their families are not being taken care of. And it's very disappointing. This is one of the things, for me, it was quite very saddening that at the media chat that Mr. President had the last time, he was told that, look, President Buhari, when he opened the cupboards at the defense architecture, there were a lot of dead bodies that were falling out of the cupboard. Are you, Mr. President Tinubu, also going to go and open the cupboard? And unfortunately and surprisingly, Mr. President said, no, I'm not going to go and open any cupboard in the security architecture because I don't want to disrespect the institution. Which basically gave a blank check to these guys to say, you can do whatever you want to do with the budget that is being handed over to you. I'm not interested. And I don't think it was the right thing for Mr. President. Mr. President missed an opportunity to put a direct statement to the security architecture and indeed every Nigerian, home and abroad, to say that, look, I am Mr. President, I swear by the Constitution to defend Nigeria, and I'm going to come after anybody who is doing the wrong things, whether you're a general or you're a service chief, doesn't matter. If you're a service chief, you should do the right thing. And we know from the investigations that happened in both the Ministry of Defense and in the services, which is the Army, Navy, and Air Force, and the Defense, Chief of Defense Staff. Let's not forget that the former Chief of Defense Staff, there was so much that came out of the investigations that were made. And this is what now impacts on the welfare of the officers. Are they being well equipped, to fight this insurgency? Can the military high command put their hand on their chest and say they are doing the best they can for our troops who are in the forefront? Are they doing the best they can for their families when these troops are falling? I don't think that is happening. And I think Mr. President has to change his mindset about what he said.
Yeah, well, the National Assembly, I was watching the plenary the other day. It's not very recent, but I was watching plenary the other day when a senator stood up. I think Senator Adams Oshumale stood up and said that all the money that they've been spending on security, they should set up committees that will look into how these monies are being spent, because sometimes you appropriate monies for security to spend on XYZ, and what they're using it to do is to build schools in some communities. And as good as a school might be, it may not be what the money was budgeted for. That's also a misappropriation. So more critical look should be given to how the monies of security are being spent. And that was the first time I heard the National Assembly say nay, because when the president of the Senate said those in support say aye, nobody said anything, maybe a few people, two or three, and those who are not in support say nay. Everybody, almost everybody said nay, and it was a shock to me. The Senate president repeated it, and they still said nay, which means there are again scrutiny of the monies that are spent on security. Even when the budget, in the past few years, the budget of security has always been very, very high. And then you're saying there should not be monitoring, there should not be anything. Maybe they were just echoing the words of the president as you have highlighted it. But when an executive and the legislature are not in support of scrutiny of how monies spent on security are being spent, then it's a problem.
Yes, it's a problem, but the solution to the problem lies with the Nigerian people. Anytime I come on your show, I always say this, and I will keep saying it until Nigerians begin to listen and say, hey, we have been taken for a ride for too long. It is time for us to take these affairs of ours into our own hands. A National Assembly that refuses to investigate or even scrutinize the security architecture that is always carrying the highest budget for probably since the beginning of our democracy, this Fourth Republic. They have always been carrying the lion's share of the budget. And a National Assembly who is representing us, the Nigerian people, that blatantly refuses, that they don't have any interest in going to check how the monies that are being budgeted are being utilized to keep us safe. That is the kind of National Assembly that Nigeria need to begin to generate the necessary votes to record them, right? This is where Nigerians have to participate in our democracy. If you don't participate that way, I wonder how you were expecting to gain democracy dividends. It's simply not going to happen, right? If all over Nigeria now, in all the 360 federal constituencies and 109 senatorial districts, Nigerians can say, enough is enough. We cannot send a puppet to the National Assembly who are not willing to do their job. So therefore, the Constitution empowers us to bring them home so that we can send a new set in there. And the recall processes are happening in different constituencies. That's the only way a message will be sent to those in power, whether at the legislative, executive, or judicial arm of government, that look, Nigerians, we are ready to do these things. Nigerians, when we are ready, let us start these things. Why are we not using the Constitution to put pressure on these people? Because look, anywhere in the world, the leaders will only work well if the people put pressure on them. All the places that want to jackpot to, that is what is happening there. If you go there, you will see that's what's happening. And if we are not ready to put the pressure, then we're not going to have a country that we're going to enjoy. It's as simple as that.
Well, this country, you are either on one side or the other. If you are enjoying, the country is working. If you are not enjoying, the country is not working. Otherwise, why would you have end bad governance and then continue bad governance protests at the same time? Because that is what happened in the end bad governance protests. So there will always be people who will claim to have divergent views and ask you to respect those views, even though they know deep within them that those are not views that will be working for Nigeria, that should even happen in Nigeria. But that's where we find ourselves. So the Office of the Citizen is experiencing a divide and rule that we don't know when it is going to clear from our minds. There's always this one side and the other side.
Yeah, but so this is the reason why you need only 25% of registered voters to initiate a recall process. The Constitution didn't say you need 100%, because the Constitution was well aware of the fact that It's not everybody who is going to follow one direction. Because like you rightly said, those who are enjoying, they see nothing wrong with the affairs of the country now. So it's only 25%. If you get 25% of registered voters in a constituency to sign up to the recall process will happen. And when the recall process happens, it is those that go to vote. If they go and vote, I think it's a simple majority of the registered voters. If they vote to say we're bringing this assembly member home, then you bring him home. The constitution didn't require you to bring 100% or even 80 or 70%. Simple majority, you bring it home. And Nigeria can't sit at home and be taking everything that is being thrown at them. As we speak today, a friend of mine told me that in Lagos, where you are, that a lot of workers are now sleeping in their offices because they cannot afford to be going home and coming back the next day because the transport fare is going to eat up the entirety of their incomes. How can Nigerians allow themselves to be suffering like that instead of pushing back at those who are putting pains on them? If we don't push back, look, Nigeria, one day they will carry us and throw all of us in the lagoon. It will happen.
Yeah, it reminds me of someone who said people should be thrown into the lagoon, but that's just an aside. That's history. Still talking security, military bans drone operation in Northeast. Obviously, they think that is a solution to the security situation they're finding in the Northeast, so they have banned drone operations. I'm sure maybe at events and all that, people use drones, so they have banned it just to be safe. Just like they banned knockouts and all other things, they are banning drones now. I don't know if you also buy the idea that this is a solution to the security situation in the Northeast or anywhere else in Nigeria.
Well, I'm not in the theater of command, so I don't know the events that are leading to this or the intelligence that the security architecture have got. But if it has to come to, there should be no drone in the air, since we cannot identify a friendly drone from an enemy drone, and so be it. Nigerians have to live with the fact that we don't need drones in the northeast so that they can keep themselves safe. There are certain things that are nice to have. They are not must have, right? A drone in the air covering a social event, it's a nice to have. It's not a must have. So if they want to switch it off, they can switch it off. If that will help with the security situation, why not?
Okay. So we move to another newspaper this morning. I'm looking for a story that I'd like to talk about. First of all, before I find it, I know the story that some quarters are proposing tax on diasporans when they are coming back home, and this has been roundly rejected by NIDCOM, the Diaspora Commission, rather, that it should never happen. They are proposing, okay, I've seen it on The Guardian, Dirty December, $500 tourism tax proposal exploitative, says NIDCOM. The proposal was that for the people who are coming back home from diaspora, they should pay a $500 tax just to come home to enjoy maybe December or something. And NIDCOM is saying no to that. What is your own take about this proposal in the first place?
Rubbish proposal. Whoever is bringing up something like that is very myopic, because you see, you propose a tax that will stop them from coming, and you lose all the benefits of their coming. You forget that when they are coming, they buy airline tickets, and those airline tickets, government has got huge duty on them that is making money. They arrive in Lagos, they start patronizing transportation to move about, right? Then they start patronizing hotels, they start patronizing food places. They go into the shops to buy. They buy all sorts of things because see them when they are going back, they are carrying huge bags going back, right? And you want to lose all that, yeah, so that diaspora should not come. Does it make sense? Who does that? Everywhere else in the world, people are attracting tourists to come. In Nigeria, someone is saying, no, tax tourists, tax them if they want to come. So because a tax stops you from doing something, right? Like here in London, where I am, if I want to drive into London now, government is going to tax me. for driving my car into London. So what's government trying to do? The government doesn't want me to drive into London to avoid congestion. They want me to go by train or bus. So if you are taxing diaspora, you are trying to stop them. Who does that? Everywhere else in the world, people are encouraging tourists to come in because they know the value of tourists. A tourist can put $10,000 in their pocket, come to your country and spend it all and carry only themselves back and leave that money back. You know, in Nigeria, anybody can just come and make noise, talk something, and then automatically it is on the news. Some of these ideas should not even be considered because they are coming from minds that know nothing.
Still on the Guardian newspaper, economists, shippers express worry over customs 12 trillion naira revenue target. The customs has been given this revenue target, and these people are worried. People who export, or import rather, are worried. In fact, import and export, they are worried about the fact that this target may affect their businesses and all that.
Well, I think we're not even collecting enough of tariffs. You discover that there's a lot of smuggling across Nigerian borders. People are bringing stuff in, people are taking stuff out. The custom can achieve that target, not by increasing tariff or anything, but by simply ensuring that they do their work right. For me, as a country, anytime I see customs checkpoint within Nigeria, I say this is custom inducting themselves. Look, how can you come and set up a checkpoint, for instance, on the Abuja Kefi Road in the hinterland of Nigeria to look for small goods? Who allowed the goods to cross the border and enter Nigeria? Is it not the same custom? You know? So we just need to cleanse the audience table in Nigeria. People need to do their work. People have to be held accountable. For many times, Nigerian officials, including the president, the minister of finance and all of that, will say, oh, let us increase the price of petrol because they are smuggling petrol across the border to neighboring countries. And for me, it's an indictment on the whole leadership of Nigeria. To carry 33,000 liters of petrol, you need a truck. To carry 1 million, you need 30 of those trucks. How can you as a government concede that you cannot stop about 300 trucks leaving Nigerian borders every day, and the only solution for you is to come and increase petrol price in Nigeria to be as high as the neighboring countries that the smuggling is going to, and nobody has been sacked, right? No commander at the border has been taken to book. So these are the issues in Nigeria. But look, Nigerian people are watching these things happening and they are doing nothing about it. So let me just come and end it there as well. Nigerians, we have to say no to this.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's also worrisome sometimes when they even get these things, what they do with them. For instance, small arms were smuggled into the country some time ago, and they were in thousands, guns, ammunitions, and everything. And the solution to that was that, okay, since they have caught these containers with these guns, they are going to destroy the guns. And I was just wondering why you would destroy guns that you have captured or you've caught at the borders or anywhere else. Why would you destroy them? Do we have too much among civil what do they call them? Civil defense, do they have enough? Does the Road Safety Corps or any other agency that should hold small arms and all that, do they have too much that you are going to destroy these? I just wonder how they do these things. They will get a smuggler who is smuggling crude oil. They will burn the crude oil and the container on the high sea. And I just wonder how they reason. Whether that is a security threat if you can keep these things and use them to your benefit, or I don't know. But this is what they do at the borders, and they come to tell us that, okay, they are working really hard and making so much money for Nigeria.
That's very wrong. Exactly. I see it. Like motorcycles, they arrest motorcycles, they go and destroy them. When they can hand them over to our security, hand over the guns to the security. Imported rice, sometimes they go and destroy it when you should hand it over to orphanages and all of that. So this whole thing is that we have elected people who are in office and they are doing as they like. All right. We have to say no to that. But Nigerians will just watch it and see whatever they want to do, they do it. And we're here, doing as if we don't know what to do. The South African fought for their democracy. The blacks in America, they fought for civil rights. In London here, as I am today, go to Parliament Square, they are demonstrating for one thing or the other, writing their MPs. The French, they always strike at their government. The Germans will do the same thing. Nigerians are so docile, we are sitting down doing nothing. All this thing is coming back to us. The day we as Nigerians decide that, look, enough is enough. We have had enough of this bad governance. Let us begin even with the constitutional process of recalling legislators at all levels. That is the day that everybody will know that Nigerians have now our eyes done red, as we will say it in Nigeria.
Yeah, inflation now is 34.8%, I think. We will survive it, Nick. But this is how much we can take this morning, and we'd like to say thank you to you for your time. As usual, it was a pleasure having you.
Thank you, and have a nice day.
You too.
Viewers.
Yeah. We've been talking to Nick Agule, a public affairs analyst and an energy expert. We were looking at the headlines on some of our national dailies. We'll take a break, and when we return, we'll be on to our first hot topic, which is on the 2025 budget. Budget flags monitoring loopholes or major loopholes in the 2025 budget. Stay with us.